Good afternoon and good to have you with us here on this special broadcast this Tuesday afternoon. Well, when we began, we had the exit polls to give us a sense of what could be in store for us, and that kind of gave the edge to the Mahagathbandhan. 6 hours later, since we started our programming, we are now looking at the numbers, and these are the actual leads as the counting goes on. For the 243 seats where counting is being done, the NDA is actually in the driver's seat now, comfortably beyond the halfway mark, but they have come down from the 132 that we were looking at to 128. So, still important to keep in mind, these are leads figures, but NDA now well beyond 122, Mahagathbandhan roaming around that the century mark. And of course, the shots on your screens are of some celebrations that happened a short while ago at the JDU office. The same office, by the way, that wore a deserted look throughout the weekend and all of yesterday is now seeing a very different kind of a sentiment and mood. Let me first quickly go across to Ayushman. Ayushman, have you changed locations? Found a more exciting one than Tejaswi's residence for now?
Bye. Yes, Tanvi, in fact, right now we are at the JDU's office, which wore a deserted look yesterday. But today, the party cadre is here, the workers are here, and you can see them. They are all happy that the JDU has taken the lead. In fact, we will be speaking to those people who are here. कितने बजे आए थे यहाँ पे?
हम तो यहाँ 6:30 बजे अपने पार्टी दफ्तर के गेट पर पहुँच गया था। लोग मीडिया के भाइयों ने साथियों ने हमसे पूछे, प्रश्न किया, कहा कि कोई नहीं, अभी कोई से मतलब नहीं है, हम आ गए हैं, सारे लोग यहाँ पहुँच जाएंगे, टाइम जो हो रहा है वो टाइम पर सब लोग आएंगे और हमारा जो उद्देश्य, जिस उद्देश्य से मैं आया हूँ यहाँ, उस उद्देश्य में मैं सफल होने जा रहा हूँ। इसलिए कि मेरा नेता आदरणीय नीतीश कुमार जी ने बिहार के एक से एक कठिनाइयों को गले लगाया है, और जब गले लगाया है तो तीर और कमल के बिहार की जनता ने गला लगाकर सिंहासन सौंपा।
क्या है इस बार का नारा, क्या है?
2020 फिर से नीतीश कुमार बिहार के नाम, विकास के नाम पर इनको वोट मिला। सारे जाति धर्म मजहब के लोग, गरीब उती पिछड़ा पिछड़ा सारे लोग बिहार के विकास के नाम पर वोट दिया और पुनः 2020 में नीतीश कुमार के चौथा बार मुख्यमंत्री बनाया।
आप क्या देखते हैं, युवाओं से कनेक्ट जो था, जिसकी बात आरजेडी कर रही थी, आप लोग भी इक्वली कनेक्ट कर पाए? महिलाओं ने ज्यादा वोट दिया इस बार, वो फायदा कर रहा है?
बिल्कुल, महिलाओं को 50% आरक्षण दिया गया नौकरी में, उसके बाद शराबबंदी, उसके बाद से ही महिलाएं साथ में हैं। युवा तो बिल्कुल हमारे साथ हैं, हम लोग खुद युवा साथ में हैं। 15 साल के जो इन्होंने काम किया, उसके आधार पर फिर ये पुनः मुख्यमंत्री बन रहे हैं। जनता जान चुकी है कि नीतीश कुमार जी का कोई विकल्प नहीं है, बिहार में कोई भी विकल्प नहीं है नीतीश कुमार जी का, कोई विकल्प नहीं है नीतीश कुमार जी का। और जो वादे करते हैं, झूठे वादे इधर उधर करके नौजवानों को बरगलाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, ठीक है। और नीतीश कुमार जी ने जो नौजवानों को आगे बढ़ाया, हम लोग खुद नौजवान आके इतना काम किया 15 साल में कि खुद दिख रहा है।
अच्छा, ठीक है। There you see, Tanvi, the jubilant workers of JDU enjoying the lead currently, but it is very important to mention here that only 5 rounds have concluded out of the 20 round that is to take place. 10% only the voting has been counted yet, and most significantly, 45% increase is there in the EVM. The Election Commission has told me now that the normal time that we take in counting and declaration, that time, extra time will be needed. At 1:30, EC is going to do a PC on the counting updates, Tanvi.
Yeah, Ayushman, in fact, I wanted you to emphasize on this a little bit more and talk about this a little bit more. Because it's not often that you see in the middle of counting, Election Commission is actually going to hold a news briefing in about an hour or so from now. The counting is moving very, very slowly. Just, talk a little bit more about that, Ayushman. Why is that happening? Why is the counting moving so slowly? And what is it that the EC really wants to talk about?
Well, Tanvi, the counting updates, as what we have got to know from the official sources, is that the update of counting will be given. What kind of update, that is yet not known. We have been told that Chandrabhushan, who is the DEC and the in charge of Bihar, and Umesh Sinha from the Election Commission will be speaking to media. What we know so far, that the process, because of the COVID, we saw an increase of 45% polling stations, which means if earlier there were 2, around 3 polling booths are there this time. So that inclusion of voting or the EVMs is definitely going to increase the count. Now, if you talk about right now, roughly 10% of the voting has been counted, and currently the process is proceeding as it's normal. Now, apart from that, Tanvi, it's 20 rounds. 5 rounds have been so far concluded. Still 15 round is there. Too early to call it a shot, but for now, definitely, as per the official figures from EC, the number seems to be hinging towards the BJP-JDU alliance.
All right, Ayushman, thanks so much for that. We will, of course, keep coming back to you. 2 points that I want to highlight as takeaways from our conversation with Ayushman. One is the significant turnaround in the sentiment at the JDU office, which is completely empty. Till morning, there was not a single person to be seen. And look at the celebrations that are happening there. But two, what Ayushman pointed otherwise about the counting process, why it's taking more time. It is moving slowly, and we will know a lot more about it when the Election Commission holds that news briefing. Before I say good afternoon to the panelists who are joining us, let me also quickly go across to Aarti for some more insights on the leads that we have so far for these 243 seats. Aarti, over to you.
Right, Tanvi, we are trying to break down the numbers a little and see where these numbers have actually come from. Though, again, just to reiterate, these are early trends, as Ayushman was telling us. There is still a long way to go. But we're looking at 3 specific clusters. There is the urban, the rural, and minority-dominated clusters. These are essentially a grouping of seats where that is the particular dominant demography. Now, let's start off with the urban voter. Remember, the BJP is always known to be an urban party. That's the vote that they've cultivated over the years. And unsurprisingly, the BJP has got over 20 seats with the JDU as well. It's got 21 seats over there. It's only 10 seats for the Mahagathbandhan. So the urban seats, the urban cluster of seats is firmly in the BJP's kitty. Let's look at the rural seats now, where you would presume that the Mahagathbandhan does much better. But once again, it is the NDA which has taken a lead in this particular constituency, in this particular demography as well. We are going to see if we can further slice that down to see if there is, we can get the number of women voters and how they voted. That will take some time. But this is the rural vote, which has gone again largely to the NDA. And finally, let's just look at the minority-dominated seats in Bihar. Now, this is a very interesting story. And I also want to point out, while we look at this cluster at this particular region, this is the Simanchal region. It went to polling in the final phase. It was expected to be an RJD stronghold. In fact, this entire cluster is a traditional RJD stronghold. And yet, you can see how it has swung in the NDA's favor. In fact, just a little aside, as a subset of this, there are also certain 10-odd seats which is called the OAC Kushwaha cluster, where they are supposed to hold sway. Even in those 10-odd seats, it's actually the NDA that has got 6 seats. So, in this particular seat, let's assume this to be a subset of that Simanchal area or the subset of that Muslim-dominated seats. Even here, it is the NDA that has done well. So, the traditional vote bank of the RJD, the Congress, crumbling as far as the early leads suggest.
Okay, Aarti, thanks so much for bringing us some of those insights, and they will provide us quite a few talking points with our experts as well. But before we get into what this data suggests, Vinay, a quick word on what Ayushman was telling us. The fact that only 5 rounds of the 20 for counting have happened. There were additional polling stations, which means that it's happening at even slower pace. And not even 10% of the votes have been counted so far.
Yes, just a small caveat to what he said. This 20 rounds is not cast in stone.
Right.
That depends on the size of the constituency and the size of the electorate of that constituency also. So, but it ranges between, say, 18 and 24, depending on how many voters that particular constituency has and the polling stations they had. So, but yes, I think the bottom line that he was pointing out was that we really only have 5 rounds of data with us, and the margins are still slender. Things could change still to some extent. I think I was just going through it. I haven't finished the whole exercise, but at least half the seats are still under 1,000 in terms of the leads. Of course, some of the others are now, some of them have crossed 5,000 as well, which is a fairly safe margin now to hold. But what I'm more intrigued about is why is the Election Commission doing a press conference in the middle at 1?
Right.
This is very unusual. I don't remember the last time in a state election the EC held a briefing at 1 in the afternoon, even while the counting was on. So I
have a sense they are going to say that this will move on very slowly, and like the case of maybe Madhya Pradesh.
Probably, but even then they did not come out and say anything at 1. I mean,
Perhaps has happened because that VVPAT trail and subsequent matching of that VVPAT, whatever that slip comes out, and with the EVM voting.
That is true, but in VVPAT trail was there in Delhi, it was there in Madhya Pradesh and in Jharkhand as well, but they didn't address a briefing. Maybe they just want to clarify it.
Briefing is unusual.
Briefing is very unusual at 1 in the afternoon, but I mean, I guess it's good that they're coming out and clarifying it before people start speculating.
Yeah, Tuhin, you wanted to come in on this with the fact that, you know, they are going to be talking in the middle of the counting process is also a little unprecedented.
That is unusual, but I
we're
don't
also
think,
picking up a little bit more information on, unlike the JDU, the BJP is still being very cautious and not breaking into a celebration right away.
Well, BJP has always believed in guarded optimism.
No.
I think. No, for that matter, how, you know, despite all the attempts to paint Tejasvi Yadav as the next hero,
Right.
It's not that we were not aware that we were doing well and exceedingly well. 70 to 80% of the seats was always, we were always expecting that. But we allowed him to have his, you know, moment of glory driven by the usual chosen journalists. At this point of time, yes, the 1 PM briefing is a little strange. I would rather expect Tejasvi or Rahul Gandhi to come forward and crib about the EVM at this stage. That's not happening.
Maybe they are preempting it. Because somebody may accuse that counting process is so slow because of dash, and therefore they are preempting that kind of.
But you know what? I am going to say this. If we're going to do a very quick check and find out if we can get one of our reporters from the BJP office also to give us an update, because it is very odd that it's 12:15. And if the leads, and for the NDA, the leads have been beyond 122, the halfway mark, for over an hour now, and we haven't seen the sight of laddus or the drums and the dhols at all right now, which means that they're also being cautious, which means that everybody must stay cautious of what these numbers suggest.
See, actually, I have a feeling that become wiser by 2010 experience. Incidentally, JDU, RJD and BJP office are located on same road in a distance of say 200 to 500 meters. And 2010, they started premature celebration, and ultimately celebration ended at RJD and JDU doorsteps. So they are playing a bit guarded.
Are you suggesting that they get the laddus from the same person whoever finally needs it?
So in this particular case, they also are in a commanding position.
See, but there is clearly a difference between.
And therefore, the question that you asked to Ayushman out there, have you shifted to more exciting location? Since in the morning, generally media out there works with a kind of I would not say horde mentality, but generally the buzz is this is happening here.
Right.
This is happening place. So move on from all the OBs on all those reporters were parked outside of Tejasvi Yadav's house.
Right.
And they moved on to, soon they have heard something happening at JDU office, some Duffley and some people, they moved on to here. And यहाँ कोई मछली नहीं था.
There is a quantification
Oh, by
of
the way,
weight.
some BJP celebration shots
so there
there
is
on the screens right now. So those are the celebrations at the BJP office.
There is also a quantification of Sanjay's worry. The count has now come. 73 seats as of now are currently a lead of 1,000 and less.
Yeah.
Maybe the BJP know, of course they know it, because they do a calculation far more than we do. And obviously they are just waiting maybe an hour more before they start doing it.
See, the important thing is the patterns are very clear. Unlike the Karnataka election or the Madhya Pradesh elections, which went down to the wire, if you look at the strike rate of RJD, there's a big catch. Less than 45% for a party which was supposed to usurp power, or not usurp power, but, you know, kind of leave a mark and be the single largest party. It's getting us, the strike rate is less than 45%. So even if one were to imagine that out of those 73 seats, let's suppose 30 or 35 go the other way, only in that situation would there be a closer fight. Otherwise, we can see a very clear demarcation. It's heading in the direction of NDA. Or rather, it's already headed in that direction.
Say about hour and a half, NDA is maintaining its lead and on majority of across majority marks since 1 hour. So I would normally go by the assumption, with my experience, that from this on, BJP NDA should ideally hold on till the rider constantly kind of that rider given by Vinay, that please hold your horses, the margins are very less. I don't see a possibility whereby this is going to completely reverse in the other
And
direction.
very clearly, Simanchal has been the game changer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Either they
Simanchal
were
is a game
complacent towards the end, or they did not imagine that an unnoticed counter polarization was happening without them even realizing it. But very clearly, I think the last phase has been the game changer. over
Okay,
here.
let's also say good afternoon to other panelists who are joining us right now, and let me see if I can, go across to Mr. Iqbal Singh Lalpura, national spokesperson for the BJP, Aman Panwar, spokesperson for the Congress Party, also joining us, and Dr. Naval Kishore of the RJD will also be with us shortly. But Iqbal Singh Lalpura, as far as the BJP is concerned, have you internally called it an election for you yet, or are you also waiting for some more clarity?
So every vote has to be counted, and we are very hopeful that we are making the government there, and we have worked there. We have given Sushashan, we have controlled crime, we have given electricity to every village, we have constructed roads. We are very hopeful. We are making government. The trends will continue. And it's very clear people have given their mandate for Nitish ji once again.
Okay, let me also say good afternoon to Pankaj Pathak of the Congress Party joining us right now. Pankaj, thanks for staying with us. It doesn't look like it's going to be an easy sale. What's the internal conversation right now within the Mahagathbandhan camp?
Well, we all know it's going to be a long day, and I think it's very premature for anybody to celebrate now that only 10% of the votes have been counted. And we were confident during the election process. We are still very confident because we have gone amongst the people. We have raised their issues. We have raised the issues that they wanted us to raise, and we have seen the sentiment that Bihar has for a change. So I think we should still wait, and we are very confident that we would be forming the government with a majority. And as you already said, that the margins are very close as of now. We are still hoping that as more and more EVMs would be opened up, we'll see a change in the trends that we are seeing right now, and it's going to be positive for us, and we'll be forming the government.
No, but you're sitting at 100 right now. Where do you think the change is going to come from in terms of regions or seats?
I think we'll see an overall improvement. And there are like a lot of seats, I think around 70 seats, where we are seeing a margin of only 500 and 2,000 votes. I think that those seats would also see a change in our favor. And I think overall, we are going to have a better strike rate this time. And we are pretty confident. I mean, overall, we are pretty confident that the issues that we raised resonated with the public. We saw a lot of enthusiasm regarding a new CM in the state, and the issues, especially those relating to employment, to jobs, they gathered a lot of support amongst the people. So we are confident that the results would be changed pretty soon, and we will be very soon we'll be crossing the required margin that is required to form the government.
I remember Pankaj defending or rooting for Akhilesh Yadav in 2017 assembly elections with same vigor.
I have a very direct question for you.
What
I mean, let's for a minute forget about the alliance. I have a question directly for the Congress.
I mean,
No, Pankaj, I have a question directly to the Congress. In 2015, you had contested 40 seats, right? You won 27. Strike rate was almost 65-66%. You contested 70 this time, and you're as of now leading in 27. 20, sorry, not even 27. I mean, your strike rate has dropped to 1/3. It doesn't worry the Congress at all? I mean, you've been an appendix.
Do you think that after 10% counting, it is right to go into a detailed, detailed analysis of what the strike rate would be? I think a lot of... Yes, it is. It is around 10% as of now. And I think it's going to go on till late in the evening. So I think it would be better if we can wait for a few more hours before going into a detailed analysis of what the strike rates are.
I know we said that the margins are thin, but remember the margins are thin can go either way. It doesn't only go one way. If the margins are thin and you may recoup, yes, but they may also increase to the other side. Both possibilities exist.
It would make more sense if we have this, this kind of an analysis after a few more hours, because no matter what we discuss right now, whatever analysis we have to do would be done only after the after the final results are out. Even for us, for you, it's the same thing. If we have that sort of a low strike rate, we'll need to introspect, but we'll do it once the results are out. I think there is no need of going into that sort of an analysis right now.
Well, what do you think went wrong with, let's just take it at face value till now. You're right, the polling is, the counting is not over. But as of now, something seems to have gone wrong in Simanchal, an area which actually was strong for you. That's where all the problems and all the losses for the Gathbandhan are coming in from.
Well, I think we'll need to look more deeply into it. If the result is what the trends are suggesting after a 10% count, then we need to look into it. What went wrong? If our candidate selection was wrong, or if our issues were not understood by the public. But I think we still have a long way to go for it. After a 10%, you said the elections. There's still a long way. I think the counting has just started. It's just a 10% count as of now. So I think let's wait for at least 2-3 hours before we can, go into that sort of an analysis. And we are seeing a lot of fluctuations. I mean, a lot of different channels are showing different numbers. So that continuous fluctuation is also going on. So we need to wait a little longer before we can analyze.
Okay, just for clarity for everybody, of course, what we are showing you is what the agency Nielsen brings about, and these are largely the leads. We keep telling you again and again, these are still early leads and early trends. Maybe more clarity will come in when the Election Commission speaks to us about the pace of the counting. But I am looking at the Election Commission's website, and the Election Commission's website, as per its own numbers, is giving 73 leads to the Bharatiya Janata Party and 62 leads to the RJD. The Janata Dal United has 46 leads. The CPIML has 14 leads. In fact, in this breakup, we can also see that AIMIM has leads in 3 seats as well. And the Lok Jan Shakti Party, the LJP, has leads in 4 seats. So that's essentially the breakup that we have from the Election Commission's website, and the counting is still on. Let me also say good afternoon in fact, if I can just take this point across to Iqbal Singh Lalpura. Mr. Lalpura, the Mahagathbandhan says too early to say which way it is headed. But we are actually seeing celebrations coming in from some of the other party offices, especially BJP and JDU. How are you so confident then?
Misguided by certain newspapers and other people. So they started celebrating yesterday, and they are now nowhere. They lost in the morning. They are losing. I think these trends will continue, and we are forming the government in Bihar under Shri Nitish Kumar.
Okay, we're just going to patch that line properly so we can also see Mr. Lalpura while we can hear him right now. BJP, by the way, is leading in Kishanganj. The candidate is Sweety Singh. AIMIM is leading in Bahadurganj. But Kishanganj, of course, is a place which has 42% Muslim population.
That's actually very interesting.
Yeah.
Shahnawaz Hussain once won from Kishanganj as an MP. Yeah. And that was because of huge counter-polarization that went in favor of BJP. This Kishanganj lead for BJP is actually very, very important and significant in terms of how the undercurrents of polarization without being overtly visible, as is the case in UP on various occasions. That is very, very significant.
How would one explain this?
The campaigning in the last phase, I think, Bharat Mata Ki Jai, Ram Mandir references.
And then
so they have managed to consolidate the Hindu votes in this belt.
Will remind them, yes, there is this, at one point Kishanganj used to be called by the foot soldiers of the BJP as Bihar ka Pakistan.
Yeah, but in a place where
So what
42%
Nilanjan is
Muslims
saying,
are
what-
there, they're either not
No, but there is
voting on
another
those
interesting
lines,
trend in that
but
case.
voting on some other
There
lines.
is another interesting trend in that case. It couldn't have happened with a certain percentage of Muslims also voting for the BJP.
No, there is
Correct.
always a certain percentage of Muslims voting for.
But
Who
in
says
a
that it is
constituency
zero?
where
Certain
in a
percentage
constituency
could be
where you have
half percent.
42%
It
Muslims,
is-
that constituency, that percentage has to be pretty significant.
Even in a state like Gujarat, studies have, post-poll surveys have indicated that almost about 10% of the Muslim
In fact,
population.
Gujarat,
Here it has to be a more
by
significant
and
number
large,
than
for
that.
the
Nilanjan
BJP.
ji,
So that would
you-
happen. Why, Tuhin? Why would that happen?
Because of the, all this talk about BJP being a communal party, I think at the end of the day, when you see deliverance happening, when you see gas cylinders, when you see relief material coming during the COVID crisis, they realize that in terms of work, there is only one party that you can depend upon. I think this is the only explanation which can explain why people across segments, and especially, and
By
I
that
first
logic,
noticed,
we would have seen a larger number of votes already coming in for BJP.
no, but during the Lok Sabha elections, BJP winning 3 seats in Telangana, out of which, to the best of my knowledge, 2 had a significant 25% plus Muslim population.
Right.
So it couldn't have happened without a significant number actually buying into the development
Not
agenda.
necessarily, because the example of Gujarat, which Nilanjan is giving, Gujarat, in fact, I saw that Gujarat was broadly different from rest of the country, whereby Gujarat model was being presented to Muslim in terms of fear psychosis. And older generation out there had started voting for BJP as compared to younger generation, the section of it. In terms of, in some areas, in previous elections, there were some instances, not very significant, but yes, there were indications that women folk in particular, because of the delivery mechanism, last mile delivery of various socially beneficial scheme, Muslim women voted for BJP. But that section, that percentage was very, very limited. Let me also say, in Kishanganj case, A, counter polarization, B, some votes, even if they broadly voted for YC's party, some votes may have gone to the Congress or to the RJD, wherever their candidates, Mahagathbandhan candidate, where there, say, 5-10,000 votes here and there, make a huge, huge difference in that particular area. So, Ram Mandir factor, maybe not visibly, but silently have worked. Yogi Adityanath blistering campaign, he was a very popular campaigner in Bihar. His rallies drew huge crowds. So maybe that worked, and therefore I repeatedly mentioned that what Nitish Kumar said was for his conscience, personal conscience record, and also for the work he did for Pasmanda Muslims.
Since you
Because
said
that was-
about the women voter base, Mr. Sanjay Singh, could triple talaq still be a factor in the bill, and BJP, because they did talk about it in the initial campaigning days, they did bring it up for some reason as well.
See, I used to believe that, and therefore I said about previous elections, till such time during CAA agitation, I saw women on forefront and saying very nasty things against Modi government, and so therefore I was revising my opinion. I have personally not visited Muslim households in Bihar election, so therefore I can say anything definitely in favor or against of it, this particular scenario. But that scenario was emerging prior to CAA. I'm not sure what has happened on the ground post CAA, whereby driven by triple talaq thing, Muslim women, and also because of socially beneficial schemes, were tilting towards at least a section of it. I'm again and again adding a section of it, not a very significant section, but a section of it was tilting towards BJP, and also it was BJP's idea to make a dent through women in Muslims vote bank, and it is generally tendency of reporters, as in case of Bihar, that you see Tejaswi's ground rallies on, but there were hardly any women out there in those rallies, and his social support base was very, very vocal.
Very vocal.
Yadav and Muslim, they were fighting for their existence. 15 years from being a ruling class party or ruling class psyche, living with a ruling class psyche, they had their problems, and therefore they wanted and they thought that this was the time when they could actually come back. They were not coming back. Incidentally, these threw a result whereby BJP for the first time in history is going to be single largest party in Bihar and almost double of the JDU's strength. which is a hugely critical thing.
Yeah.
You may ask BJP spokesperson who is on this panel right now that this is a scenario whereby BJP is landing almost double of JDU seat. Will they still hold on to, will they still keep their promise to make Nitish Kumar Chief Minister? Because scenario has completely changed.
Yeah.
It is
But-
BJP which has pulled up.
Well, I just heard one BJP leader saying, that they
Yes,
are going to stick
the
with,
last
but these
one
are
actually
decisions
fully
which are not going
endorsed
to.
Nitish Kumar and said
Yeah,
it was
not
Nitish
going to be
Kumar's
made
steps
by-
and policies that kind of
Yeah, so
helped them.
the logic is very clear. There is no question that if this is what will end up being the final result, there is no way that they will drop Nitish Kumar right away.
Right.
But I can guarantee you that in the
Within
medium to
2
short
years,
run,
the process will begin.
the process will begin.
Decent.
Because the return on investment is over. I mean, there is a law of diminishing returns that will set in. The minute
Nitish Kumar will
starts,
not be able to give anything further to the
if he is,
BJP.
yeah, correct.
And Nitish Kumar too has this idealistic streak. He gave power to Jitan Ram Manji for very absurd reasons, I would say, and he regretted that later on. In this case, BJP would want him to decently exit so that it can appropriate what you were saying earlier.
Are you
Nitish
trying to
Kumar's
suggest-
legacy,
Are
the
Are you trying
support
to
base
suggest
that he has
his
built and his
idealism this time
party.
should, make him give power to the BJP and step aside?
Maybe not now, but in times to come, say maybe 6
I think
months
a bit
down
of
the
a
line or
reality
year
check will
down the
have to
line.
happen, maybe. I wouldn't put it past BJP to try ensure that he
No, I
feels
told you,
that
just-
and
I
feels
told you on
that.
Saturday,
small
I
addition
respect
to-
his idealism, except that, that idealism is something which, only he is very clear about. The world doesn't understand.
No, but I don't know why we
It's
are
the
saying
same kind of
Nitish Kumar has
skepticism
idealism.
which
He has
the
no
BJP has
idealism.
always had towards Nitish Kumar, and that was the prime reason as to why there were these problems between the JDU and the BJP. Just one point, to add to what Tuhin was saying, and repeated conversations with BJP leaders over the last several years has said, that we will get support of Muslims because this government follows non-sectarian welfare schemes. That when a gas chula is sent, we do not look at the religious identity of the person. The point is that where all has this worked over, despite the politics which the BJP plays. One is the economics that they are going to highlight, which is what Tuhin was also saying, that our government runs these schemes, that is the economics. But the politics is actually, becoming further, there's a greater amount of tightening. We were talking about Gujarat, the Gujarat reasons, one of the reasons as to why a larger number of Muslims of Gujarat vote for the BJP than compared to the Muslims of, in the other states. It's very defining in the typical Sangh language that inke saath roti beti ka rishta hai. Now in Gujarat, there is no beti ka rishta, obviously. But at least roti ka rishta hai. Now what is happening is that in North, at least in the last several months, we have seen repeated instances of Muslims being left out of even the roti ka rishta. It is happening. There's been this video being circulated about a Muslim cracker shop, being visited by some, people who unidentified, but obviously they are voters of Hindutva idea, and saying, that you can't sell crackers of, having the names and the images of Hindu deities, Lakshmi or various other names. So there are these problems which BJP will have to look at it, because BJP will eventually have to become a much more socially unifying party. It cannot continue to have the kind of polarization driven benefits which has happened in Seemanchal possibly.
Just on a side note, I don't understand that that point where the BJP guys are getting upset, and I will say BJP because the BJP Madhya Pradesh ministers have come out and said that crackers with with goddesses on and gods on covers should not be sold, because on one hand you fight about for Diwali and for firecrackers, and you call the right to burn firecrackers at the risk of ruining people's health as you're right because you believe in the religion and it's something to do with your religious sentiments that you're allowed to burn crackers in Diwali. And on the other hand, you say it's objectionable that the crackers themselves have the pictures of gods and goddesses on them. Anything to try and ask for vote or divide people and sway people in the name of religion. That's what it effectively boils down to. I have to take a break on this note. We will come back with lots more insights. Aarti has some more interesting information dug out for us. Our panelists continue to stay with us. Be with us here on Mirror Now.